Pont. Sorry I had to miss your class today. I just wanted to make sure that you don't get behind. So you were supposed to go to Google Classroom and follow the rules on that. The first rule that, or the first set of instructions I gave you was to go to Flocabulary and watch the Elements of a Story video. And so this is picking up after you have watched the Flocabulary video. So if you've already watched the Flocabulary video, keep listening and watching this video. If you haven't, pause this video and go watch that video. Okay, so I'm assuming you all have watched the Flocabulary video that you're supposed to, and that will help you understand what I'm talking about a little bit better. So, the very first thing I want you to do now is I want you to get out your reading journal and turn to the next blank page. We're going to go ahead and get this set up for our new fiction project. We've been working on poetry and figurative language. Now we are going to work on a new section in our spirals or journal or whatever you want to call it, and we're going to make sure that we set this up for what we're learning. So, if you need to pause this video to go get your journal, you can do that and just press play once you've got it. Capiche? Caposh. Okay, so you're on your next blank page, and what I want you guys to do, I'm just going to type it because I can't write it and let you guys see it. So, on your page, you do what I'm doing. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and in the middle of my page, you're going to write this on the middle of your page. On the middle of my page, I'm going to write fiction. Fantastic, fictional, energy, and operations. That is our project title. All right. Once you've got this written on the next blank page in your notebook, you are good to go. Okay. So now I want you to turn the page again. This will be our first set of notes for our fiction project. And remember, you can pause this video anytime if you're falling behind. Let's say, oh, Miss Ponce, I haven't already written that. I need more time. Press pause and then press play when you're ready. Okay, now you should have a paper that looks something like this right here. It says the 5 elements of a story. Yours looks a little bit different than mine. I have recreated this to make it easier for me to teach you over the internet. So if you're looking at a little tiny piece of paper that says 5 elements of a story, plot, character, conflict, theme, and setting, you are looking at the right thing. The very first thing I asked you to do was to go watch Flocabulary's video about story elements. Here's the deal, guys. We're about to start learning about fiction. And fiction is when the author, the person who wrote the story, is making up the story. It's kind of like Wonder. Wonder is not a true story. Augie is not a real person. His life did not exist. The author made it up. So, kind of like in the book I read you that I wrote, Addie the Outlaw, I just made all that stuff up with my friend Alyssa. Addie is not a real person. That chubby unicorn is not real, does not exist. So we are about to learn what parts do you have to make it fiction? Or when you begin writing a fiction story, what parts do you have to make your story complete? The word elements, as you see in the title, means parts. We're 5th graders, so we want to use bigger vocabulary, so we're going to use the word elements. Guys, if you don't have all 5 of these things, plot, character, conflict, theme, setting, you don't have a complete story. So I'm going to quickly run through each one of these. I'm not going to go into too much detail because we're going to be having lots of workshops about each one of these elements. But I want to give you a brief overview of what each one of them mean. So out beside the word on your notes, you're going to write what I'm typing beside each word. Does that make sense? All right. So the plot of the story is all the events that take place. You can't have a story if you don't have things happening. All right? If you had a story that did not have a plot, this is what your story would sound like. Nothing. It wouldn't sound like anything because nothing would be happening. So your plot is all those things that are happening in your story. Okay? I'll go over that more in a workshop about plot. Characters are who or what the story is about. Now, something that's very important that you know, Characters do not have to be people. Characters can be animals. We learned that when we learned about personification. If you think of the movie Beauty and the Beast, there's a teacup, that's a character. There's a candlestick, that's a character. It's fiction, so you can have whatever kind of characters you want. The next thing we're going to learn about, and don't worry, we're going to learn more about characters later. The next thing we're going to learn about next Tuesday when you come back to school is conflict. Every story has a conflict, and the word conflict means problem. There are 5 types of problems that we're going to be learning about, but today I just want you to know that the word conflict means problem, and if you have a story that doesn't have a problem, you don't have a fiction story. Now, problems can be good, problems can be bad. But every story has a problem, and most likely every story has more than one problem. Augie has a lot of problems. He was born with a birth defect. That's a conflict. He has a bully at school. That's a conflict. He has his best friend saying really mean things about him. That's a conflict too. If you don't have a conflict, you don't have a story. Capiche? Caposh. All right, the next thing is theme. Every fiction story, I'm not going to say every, but most fiction story teaches you a life lesson. So if I teach you the story, The Boy Who Cried Wolf, let me tell you this story real quick and let's figure out what this life lesson is. So there was this little boy and he lived many, many, many years ago and he was a troublemaker. He was very mischievous and he would run through town and tell all the people, there's a wolf coming, there's a wolf coming. And all the people would freak out and they would get their sheeps and they would leave so the wolf wouldn't eat their sheep. And the boy's laughing because he was just lying about that. And he did this over and over and over again. And the people started catching on to the fact that this boy is telling stories. He's not telling the truth. One time, after about 3 weeks of lying to these people and freaking them out every time that he wanted to cause some trouble or have some fun, he was walking down the road and he really did see a wolf. So he started telling all the people, guys, get your sheeps out of here. These wolves will eat your sheep. But guess what? The people didn't believe him anymore because he had told so many lies. So what's the theme, the life lesson of that story? The lesson of that story is don't tell lies. Every story has a theme. The theme in Wonder is love who you are. Augie has to learn to love himself. Another theme of Wonder is be kind. Be like Summer. Those are just lessons the author will never say. The theme of this story is be nice. You just have to infer it. You have to figure it out. Remember, the word infer means to make an educated guess. Now, the last element of a fiction story is setting. Setting is where and when the story takes place. So let's talk about Wonder again. The setting of the story is where? New York. When? Augie's 5th grade year. That is the setting. All right, so these are just very quickly the 5 things you have to have a fiction story. So I hope, like I asked you to, that you wrote all of these things out beside on the little foldable you got. If you did that, now you can title that next blank page in your story, 5 elements of a story, and glue this down. If you have any questions, ask your team leader. If your team leader can't answer the questions, ask another team. This is basically the same thing that we always do when we go to workshops. It's just on the computer now and not in person. So I hope you enjoyed this. I didn't want you to get behind, and that is pretty much all I have for you today. So you've watched the vocabulary video, you've done this, you've written your notes on it, and you've glued it down. Don't forget to go ahead and do this on the next blank page in your spiral. We will put the little blue tab on it when I get back to school on Tuesday. All right, that is about all that I have for you in this video. Listen up to your substitute teacher to see what you're supposed to be doing next. I miss you guys, and I hope you have a wonderful, really, 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 really long weekend. Bye. Love you.